The suffocating August heat in Fort Bragg, North Carolina, made the asphalt shimmer like water. The largest military complex in the United States buzzed with the typical Monday activity. Soldiers marching in formation, armored vehicles crossing, wide avenues, and the constant hum of helicopters overhead. In the Sector 7 mechanic shop, amid the smell of diesel oil and the clatter of tools, one figure stood out for her uniqueness. Maya Rodriguez, 28, worked under the hood of a military Humvee with precise, efficient movements. Her small but calloused hands wielded a wrench with the skill of someone born for the job. "Hey, mechanic!" a commanding voice echoed through the shop. Maya didn't look up from the engine. She knew that tone, the same one she'd heard since arriving at the base 3 months ago. General Marcus Blackwood approached with firm steps, his 52 years laden with decorations and a posture that screamed decades of command. Tall, with impeccably trimmed grey hair and piercing blue eyes that seemed to dissect anyone they gazed upon. "You heard me, soldier?" Blackwood stopped 2 meters away, crossing his arms. "I'm talking to you." Maya finally emerged from under the hood, wiping her hands on a greasy rag. Her oval face, framed by brown hair tied in a practical ponytail, showed a neutral expression that masked growing irritation. "Sergeant Rodriguez, sir," she corrected, straightening her shoulders. "How can I assist you?" Blackwood chuckled, a dry, condescending sound. "Sergeant, you look more like a high school tech intern than a military mechanic. When are you going to learn to fix real vehicles?" The other mechanics in the shop stopped working, sensing the tension in the air. Maya took a deep breath, controlling the urge to snap back. "Sir, this Humvee had an issue with the electronic injection system. I replaced the oxygen sensors and recalibrated the ECU. It's running perfectly now." "Of course it is," Blackwood mocked, circling the vehicle like a predator stalking its prey. "Anyone can swap parts. But do you really understand how a military engine works? Do you know the difference between a standard transmission system and an armored one?" Maya clenched her fists but kept her voice steady. "I do, sir. I've worked with engines since I was 16. My father owned a shop in El Paso." "How touching," Blackwood smiled coldly. "A family story. Well, since you're so experienced, I want you to solve a little problem for me. I've got an M2. Bradley with a hydraulic turret system failure. The other mechanics have tried 3 times and failed. Think your family experience is up to it?" The challenge was clear. Maya knew it was a trap. If she failed, Blackwood would have more ammunition to belittle her. If she succeeded, he'd find another way to undermine her. "Where's the vehicle, sir?" "Hangar 12. You have until noon tomorrow. And Rodriguez." Blackwood leaned in slightly. "When you fail, I want you to seriously consider transferring to duties more suited to your profile." He walked away with the same firm stride, leaving Maya alone with the curious glances of her colleagues. She returned to the Humvee, but her mind was already on the problem awaiting her. What Blackwood didn't know was that Maya Rodriguez held secrets that would completely reshape his perception of the simple mechanic he so despised. As she adjusted a final electrical connection, Maya instinctively tugged her sleeve down, better covering her left wrist. There, discreetly hidden under the fabric, a small tattoo waited for the right moment to reveal a truth that would shake Fort Bragg's entire power structure. The war between them had only just begun. At 5:30 a.m., Fort Bragg still slumbered under a thick fog rising from the North Carolina swamps. Maya arrived at Hangar 12 carrying a specialized toolbox few on the base knew she possessed. The massive metal structure housed various armored vehicles under maintenance, but the M2 Bradley stood out in the center, a 25-ton beast that seemed more like a wounded predator than a war machine. "Early start, Rodriguez," the voice came from the shadows. Corporal Jenkins, a 45-year-old veteran mechanic, emerged from behind an Abrams in maintenance. His eyes showed a mix of curiosity and skepticism. "Heard about the General's challenge?" Maya nodded, approaching the Bradley. 3 attempts and you couldn't fix it?" "Not for lack of skill," Jenkins defended, his voice tinged with frustration. "The turret's hydraulic system has an intermittent failure. Works for a few hours, then locks up completely. We've replaced pumps, filters, hoses, valves. Nothing works. Maya circled the vehicle, her eyes catching details invisible to others. Her fingers traced imaginary lines on the armor, as if reading a hidden map. Did you test the secondary? Accumulator pressure? She asked, still walking. Of course. It's within parameters. And the thermal compensation system? Jenkins hesitated. Thermal compensation? Maya stopped, turning to him with an expression that blended surprise and understanding. You don't know about the thermal compensation system in modified Bradleys? Modified? Jenkins frowned. This is a standard M2. Maya climbed onto the turret, inspecting a series of numbers etched into the armor. Her lips curved into a half-smile, the first anyone had seen her give at Fort Bragg. No, it's not. This is an M2A4, 2019 variant. Look at these serial numbers, 7 to 4, Alpha 21. You're treating it like a standard model, but it has modifications requiring specific procedures. She jumped down and opened her toolbox, revealing equipment that made Jenkins whistle softly. Where'd you get those tools? He asked, eyeing advanced military-grade digital pressure gauges. Long story, Maya muttered, connecting one of the gauges to the hydraulic system. The issue isn't the parts you replaced, it's in the control software. Over the next few minutes, Maya worked with an efficiency that left Jenkins stunned. She accessed the Bradley's diagnostic system through a portable terminal, her hands dancing over the keyboard with suspicious familiarity. How do you know how to navigate the FBCB2 system? Jenkins asked, recognizing the advanced military software. Maya paused for a fraction of a second, just long enough for Jenkins to notice the hesitation. Studied the technical manuals, she replied, but her voice sounded slightly less convincing. By 9:45 a.m., 3 hours before Blackwood's deadline, Maya activated the turret's hydraulic system. The Bradley responded instantly, rotating smoothly in all directions, raising and lowering the main gun with pinpoint precision. Impossible, Jenkins whispered. What did you do? Recalibrated the thermal compensation algorithm and adjusted the pressure parameters to the modified model specs. The system was trying to operate with incompatible settings. Jenkins looked at her with new eyes. Rodriguez, where did you really learn this? At that moment, firm footsteps echoed in the hangar. General Blackwood entered, accompanied by two aides, his face radiating confidence that would soon be tested. So Rodriguez, ready to admit you. Blackwood stopped abruptly as he saw the Bradley in operation. The turret moved smoothly, testing all operational angles. Problem solved, sir, Maya said, stepping down from the vehicle. The system's running perfectly. Blackwood approached. Incredulous. That's impossible. How did you... Thermal compensation, sir. The M2A4 has different specs from the standard model. I just adjusted the right parameters. The general studied Maya with narrowed eyes, a new perception forming in his mind. Something wasn't right. Ordinary mechanics didn't know such specific details about modified military vehicles. Where exactly did you serve before Fort Bragg, Sergeant Rodriguez? Maya met his gaze directly. El Paso, sir. Vehicle maintenance with the National Guard. Blackwood nodded slowly, but his expression showed he wasn't convinced. As he walked away, Maya subtly tugged her sleeve down, covering her left wrist. She had won the first battle, but something told her the war was just beginning. The more she impressed Blackwood, the more questions he'd ask, questions she couldn't answer without revealing secrets that would change everything. General Blackwood's office, on the 3rd floor of Fort Bragg's Central Command, reflected 3 decades of military career. Framed decorations, photos with presidents and generals, an American flag unfurled behind an imposing mahogany desk. But that Thursday afternoon, Blackwood paid no attention to his symbols of authority. His blue eyes were fixed on the computer screen. Sergeant Maya Rodriguez, service number 7749 AL 2019, he murmured, scrolling through military records. Born in El Paso, Texas, enlisted at 24, specialized in automotive mechanics, served with the 142nd Maintenance Unit of the Texas National Guard. Everything seemed normal, almost too normal. Blackwood clicked on Advanced Training History and frowned. The section was nearly empty, just basic military mechanics courses. Nothing to explain the expertise shown with the M2A4 Bradley. Interesting, he muttered, picking up the phone. Colonel Patterson, I need you to run a discreet check for me. Sergeant Maya Rodriguez, Fort Bragg. I want to know everything about her background before enlistment. Meanwhile, 300 meters away, Maya worked on an M35 truck engine. In the shopyard, the North Carolina sun beat down mercilessly, but she was used to heat. El Paso had prepared her for that. What it hadn't prepared her for was the constant feeling of being watched. Rodriguez! The voice of Master Sergeant Williams boomed across the yard. Maya wiped her hands and approached the burly man who ran the shop. Yes, sir? I've got a special assignment for you. We're receiving a convoy of special vehicles tomorrow morning, equipment that needs delicate maintenance. General Blackwood specifically requested your involvement. Maya felt a chill down her spine. What kind of equipment? Classified. You'll be briefed tomorrow at 600. And Rodriguez? Williams leaned in, lowering his voice. Whatever game you and the General are playing, be careful. Blackwood's not a man who takes kindly to losing. That night, Maya returned to her quarters in Block C, a Spartan room she shared with another soldier. After ensuring she was alone, she locked the door and headed to the small metal locker. Hidden beneath a pile of uniforms was a black backpack. Maya opened it and pulled out a military-grade rugged laptop, a model no ordinary mechanic should possess. She powered it on, entered a complex password, and waited for a connection to an encrypted network. The screen displayed a familiar interface. System online, clearance level 7. Her fingers flew over the keyboard, accessing files that confirmed her worst fears. Blackwood was investigating her, and sooner or later he'd find inconsistencies in her background. One file caught her attention. Operation Phoenix, classified. Maya opened it, revealing photos and documents that made her catch her breath. There she was, 2 years younger, wearing a completely different uniform, standing alongside people Blackwood knew well. "Damn it," she whispered, quickly closing the file. At that moment, her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You're being investigated. Keep a low profile. Alpha." Maya deleted the message immediately and shut down the laptop. She walked to the small mirror in the room and pulled up her sleeve, finally revealing the tattoo she'd hidden so carefully. On her left wrist, small but perfectly defined, was an etched, stylized eagle clutching a dagger. Below it, 3 letters few in the world would recognize: SAD Special Activities Division, the CIA's most secretive unit. Maya Rodriguez wasn't just a mechanic. She was an undercover agent, and her mission at Fort Bragg was only beginning. The problem was that Blackwood was becoming a threat to the operation, and she needed to decide quickly, maintain her cover or reveal the truth. She covered the tattoo again and prepared for bed, knowing the next day would bring new challenges. Blackwood thought he was hunting an incompetent liar. In reality, he was tangling with one of the most dangerous agents in the United States. And Maya couldn't let him find out. Not yet. At 5:30 a.m., a dense fog blanketed Fort Bragg like a ghostly veil. Maya arrived at Hangar 18, an isolated structure in the base's northern sector, far from prying eyes. Unlike other hangars, this one had heightened security, armed guards, high-definition cameras, and a biometric access system. General Blackwood was waiting with 3 officers Maya didn't recognize. All wore Special Operations Command insignias, their faces carrying the grave expressions of those who dealt with deadly secrets. "Sergeant Rodriguez," Blackwood greeted with icy courtesy. "This is Colonel Hayes, Major Thompson, and Captain Martinez. You need to know that everything you see here is ultra-confidential." Maya nodded, subtly observing each face. Her CIA-trained memory catalogued details that might prove crucial. Hayes had a scar on his chin. Thompson bit his lip when nervous. Martinez wore a worn gold wedding band. "What kind of vehicles are we receiving?" Maya asked. Prototypes, Blackwood replied curtly. Experimental technology that cannot be discussed outside this hangar. At 6:15 a.m., a convoy of 3 heavy military trucks entered the base, escorted by armored vehicles. Maya watched through the hangar's high windows, noting that the trucks had temporary plates and no unit identification. Interesting, she murmured to herself. The trucks parked inside the hangar, and Maya finally saw what warranted such secrecy. Beneath camouflaged tarps were 3 vehicles she recognized instantly, but pretended she'd never seen before. Autonomous ground drones, Colonel Hayes explained. MQX project. Each is worth $15 million and represents 5 years of development. Maya approached the vehicles, maintaining an expression of professional curiosity. In truth, she was intimately familiar with the MQX project. She'd been involved in its initial development phase while still officially working for the CIA. Technical issues? She asked, inspecting the first drone. Autonomous navigation system, Major Thompson replied. Intermittent failure in the terrain recognition algorithm. Our specialized technicians couldn't pinpoint the cause. Maya opened the drone's control panel, her hands moving with a familiarity that didn't go unnoticed by Blackwood's watchful eyes. She accessed the diagnostic system through commands few would know. Have you updated the firmware recently? She asked, navigating the configuration menus. Yes, version 3.7.2, Hayes replied, surprised by the specificity of her question. There's your problem, Maya said, pointing to a line of code on the screen. Version 3.7.2 is incompatible with the Mark IV gyroscope system installed in these prototypes. You need to downgrade to 3.6.8 or install the compatibility patch. Dead silence in the hangar. The 4 officers exchanged glances, their expressions ranging from shock to suspicion. How do you know about compatibility patches for ultra-classified systems? Blackwood asked, his voice dangerously low. Maya realized she'd made a mistake. Knowledge of specific patches wouldn't be available. To an ordinary mechanic. I read about it in technical manuals, she replied, but her hesitation was evident. What manuals? Blackwood pressed. These systems are classified top secret. There are no technical manuals available at your clearance level. The tension in the hangar was palpable. Maya felt every eye on her, analyzing her every move, every word. She needed a convincing explanation, and fast. I've worked with similar systems before, she said, opting for a half-truth. Military GPS navigation. Equipment shares similar architectures. The principle is the same. Blackwood wasn't convinced, but before he could press further, his phone rang. General Blackwood, he answered, stepping away. Maya saw him frown as he listened. Understood. Yes, sir. Immediately. He hung up and returned to the group. Change of plans. We need to move these vehicles to another location. Rodriguez, you're coming with us. As the convoy was repositioned, Maya seized a moment of distraction to check her phone discreetly. A new message from Alpha. Situation compromised. Possible leak. Prepare for emergency extraction. Maya deleted the message, but her mind raced. Someone had seen through her cover, and Blackwood was getting dangerously close to the truth. That afternoon, after the drone work was completed, Blackwood pulled her aside. Rodriguez, I need you in my office tomorrow at 1400. We have some inconsistencies to clear up. Maya nodded, maintaining her composure. Of course, sir. But inside, she knew the time had come to make a critical decision. Revealing her true identity could save the operation, but might also destroy years of undercover work. As she walked back to her quarters, Maya subtly tugged her sleeve down, covering the tattoo that held secrets capable of shaking Fort Bragg's entire structure. The war between her and Blackwood was entering a decisive phase. General Blackwood's office at 2 p.m. on Friday felt more like an interrogation room than an administrative space. Blackwood had rearranged the furniture, his chair behind the desk, a single isolated chair in front, and 2 others in the room. Colonel Hayes and a woman around 40 whom Maya didn't recognize. Sergeant Rodriguez. Blackwood gestured to the isolated chair. Sit. Maya complied, maintaining impeccable military posture. Her eyes quickly assessed the situation. Hayes was tense. The unknown woman watched her every move with professional scrutiny, and Blackwood exuded the confidence of someone who believed. He was about to unmask a fraud. "This is Agent Sarah Chen, Army Criminal Investigation," Blackwood announced. "She's here to clarify some discrepancies in your record." Maya's stomach tightened, but she kept her expression neutral. "What kind of discrepancies, sir?" Chen leaned forward, opening a folder. "Let's start with the basics. Sergeant, you claim to have served with the 142nd Maintenance Unit of the Texas National Guard. I spoke personally with Colonel Martinez, the unit's commander. He's never heard of you?" "That's impossible," Maya replied, but her voice sounded less steady than intended. "It's also impossible," Chen continued, "that you have knowledge of ultra-classified navigation systems, specific firmware, batches, and technical procedures that even our most experienced specialists don't master." Blackwood stood, circling Maya's chair like a predator. "3 days ago, you were just an incompetent mechanic. Today, you're solving problems our best technicians can't. How do you explain that?" Maya took a deep breath. The situation was spiraling out of control, and she needed to decide: stick to the lie and likely face arrest, or reveal part of the truth. "I can't explain without breaching security protocol," she said finally. Chen and Blackwood exchanged glances. "What security protocol?" Hayes asked. "Classified," Maya replied, using one of the most powerful words in the military lexicon. "Classified by whom?" Blackwood pressed. Maya hesitated. Once she revealed any information about her true mission, there'd be no going back, but she saw no choice. "I can't answer without higher authorization." Blackwood slammed his fist on the desk. "Enough games! Chen, arrest this woman for falsifying military documents and espionage." "Wait," Maya said, standing from the chair. "I need to make a call." "To whom?" Chen asked, already moving to cuff her. "To the Deputy Director of Operations at the CIA." Dead silence in the room. The three stared at Maya as if she'd just claimed to be an alien. "You're telling us you're a CIA agent?" Blackwood asked, his voice a mix of disbelief and anger. "I'm saying I need to make a call," Maya repeated more firmly. Chen looked at Blackwood, who nodded reluctantly. 5 minutes, office phone on speaker. Maya walked to the phone, dialed a number she'd memorized years ago, and waited. After 3 rings, a male voice answered. "Deputy Director's Office. This is Maya Rodriguez. Identification. Code Alpha 77 Delta. I need to speak with the Deputy Director immediately. Situation compromised at Fort Bragg. Hold." The seconds dragged like hours. Blackwood, Chen, and Hayes watched Maya with a mix of skepticism and growing concern. "Rodriguez," an authoritative voice came on the line. "Confirm your identity with the emergency code." Maya looked directly at Blackwood. "Phoenix Alpha Red 77. Operation Nightfall compromised. Cover blown." Blackwood paled. He recognized the codes, security protocols known only to high-level operatives. "Understood. Put the senior officer present on the line." Maya handed the phone to Blackwood, who took it with trembling hands. "General Marcus Blackwood, Fort Bragg Command." "General, this is Deputy Director James Morrison, CIA. The woman before you is Special Agent Maya Rodriguez, one of our most experienced operatives. She's been on an ultra-secret mission for 6 months, and you've just compromised a national security operation." Blackwood sank heavily into his chair. "Sir, I had no idea." "Clearly. Agent Rodriguez, what happened?" Maya took the phone back. "My cover as a mechanic drew unintended attention. I demonstrated technical knowledge inconsistent with my operational profile. Is the situation manageable?" Maya glanced at Blackwood, whose face showed a mix of shock and something that might be respect. "Yes, sir, but I need an immediate briefing with General Blackwood." "Authorized. General, you'll be briefed on Operation Nightfall. Cosmos 7 clearance. Agent Rodriguez has full authority over the mission." The call ended, and a heavy silence filled the office. Maya turned to Blackwood, who looked at her with entirely different eyes. "So, he said slowly. "You were never just a mechanic." Maya pulled up her sleeve, finally revealing the tattoo she'd hidden for so long. The CIA's stylized eagle, with the letters SAD, gleamed under the office light. "Special Activities Division," she said. "I've been a CIA agent for 8 years, General, and you've just become part of the most important mission of your career." Blackwood stared at the tattoo, then at Maya's face, seeing her for the first time as she truly was. Not a simple mechanic, but one of the deadliest spies in the United States. The war between them was over, but a much larger battle was just beginning. 2 hours after the revelation, Blackwood's office had transformed into an impromptu command center. Maya connected her military-grade laptop to the base's secure system, and classified documents were projected on the wall. Agent Chen and Colonel Hayes had been dismissed with strict orders of confidentiality. "Operation Nightfall," Maya began, pointing to a digitized map of Fort Bragg. "6 months ago, our intelligence intercepted communications indicating someone inside this base is selling military technology information to foreign agents." Blackwood leaned forward, absorbing every word. "What kind of information?" "Technical specifications for weapons systems, navigation algorithms for autonomous drones, encrypted communication protocols. Information that could compromise national security if it fell into the wrong hands." Maya clicked, revealing a complex web of connections. "The traitor has access to Cosmos-level information. Only 47 people at Fort Bragg have that clearance. My mission was to infiltrate the base, identify the leak, and gather evidence." "Why as a mechanic?" Blackwood asked. "Mechanics have access to every sector of the base. They can enter any hangar, inspect any equipment, interact with personnel. At all levels, without raising suspicion. It's the perfect cover for an espionage operation." Blackwood ran a hand through his grey hair. "And what have you found?" Maya hesitated. "Disturbing information. The traitor isn't selling secrets for money. They're doing it for revenge." She clicked again, revealing a timeline of events. Over the past 18 months, 5 high-ranking officers were demoted or transferred after disciplinary investigations. All had something in common: access to ultra-secret information and resentment toward Fort Bragg's command. Blackwood studied the timeline, his face growing progressively darker. "You're suggesting the traitor is someone who was disciplined?" "More than that," Maya said, opening another file. "I believe the traitor is someone still active on the base, but passed over for promotions or recognition. Someone with ongoing access to sensitive information and a personal motive to harm Fort Bragg." A detailed map of the base appeared on the screen, with red dots marking specific locations. "Over the past 3 months, I've documented 17 unauthorized access attempts to classified servers. All failed due to security protocols, but the pattern suggests someone familiar with our systems." "Where did these access attempts occur?" Blackwood asked. "Hangar 12, Main Command Center, Technological Development Lab, and your office." "General?" Blackwood stood abruptly. "My office? That's impossible. Only 5 people have biometric access here." Maya met his gaze directly. "Colonel Hayes, Major Thompson, Captain Martinez, your secretary, Lieutenant Wilson, and you." The silence that followed was laden with dire implications. Blackwood paced, processing the information. "You're saying the traitor is one of those 5? The evidence points in that direction, but there's more." Maya opened an audio file. "I intercepted an encrypted conversation 2 days ago. Listen." A digitally distorted male voice echoed through the office. "The transfer is scheduled for Sunday. I have the access codes for the new MQX prototypes. Payment must be deposited to the usual account." Blackwood stopped pacing. "Sunday? That's tomorrow?" "Exactly. That's why revealing my identity now was critical. We need to stop this transfer." Maya closed the laptop and turned to Blackwood. "General, I need your help to identify the traitor. But that means you'll have to pretend you still see me as just a problematic mechanic." "Why?" "Because if the traitor knows my cover's been blown, they'll cancel the operation and disappear. We'll lose our only chance to catch them." Blackwood nodded slowly. What do you need me to do? Keep treating me with disdain in public. Maintain the pressure, question my competence. But give me unrestricted base access for the next 24 hours. And if the traitor is one of my closest officers, Maya held his gaze, then you'll have to decide what's more important, personal loyalty or national security. At that moment, the office phone rang. Blackwood answered, his expression shifting rapidly. Understood. Yes, we'll be there. He hung up and looked at Maya. Emergency meeting in 15 minutes. Main command center. Something about the MQX prototypes. Maya felt a chill down her spine. Who called the meeting? Colonel Hayes. He said he discovered something about the navigation system failure. Maya and Blackwood exchanged glances, both thinking the same thing. The meeting could be a coincidence, or the traitor was accelerating their plans. General, Maya said, subtly tugging her sleeve to cover her tattoo again. From now on, trust only me. We don't know who else is involved. As they headed to the meeting, Maya discreetly activated a small recording device hidden in her uniform. If the traitor was about to reveal themselves, she'd be ready to capture every word. The game had changed entirely. It was no longer Maya versus Blackwood, but Maya and Blackwood against an invisible enemy who knew their every move, and they had less than 24 hours to stop them. The main command center at Fort Bragg at 3:30 p.m. on Friday was tenser than usual. Maya entered behind General Blackwood, maintaining the posture of an intimidated mechanic, but her trained eyes caught every detail. The arrangement of people, body language, who avoided eye contact. Colonel Hayes stood before a large projection screen, surrounded by the same officers from the morning, Major Thompson, Captain Martinez, and now also Lieutenant Sarah Wilson, Blackwood's secretary. 5 people, exactly the 5 with access to the General's office. "Thank you for coming quickly," Hayes began, his hands slightly trembling. "I've discovered something troubling about the MQX prototypes." Maya watched Thompson bite his lip nervously, the tick she'd noticed earlier. Martinez twirled his wedding band, and Wilson kept her arms crossed, a defensive stance. "Go on, Colonel," Blackwood said, his voice maintaining its usual authoritative tone. Hayes clicked a remote, revealing programming code on the screen. "While reviewing the system logs after Sergeant Rodriguez's repair, I found these lines of code that shouldn't be there." Maya edged closer, instantly recognizing what she saw. They were backdoors, software vulnerabilities that would allow remote access to the drone's systems. "These are security vulnerabilities," Hayes continued. "Someone modified the firmware to create unauthorized access points." "When were these modifications made?" Blackwood asked. "Apparently 3 weeks ago. But what's more disturbing is that the digital signature of the modification matches one of the authorized terminals on this base." Maya's heart raced. Hayes was revealing information that could compromise the investigation. Was it naivety or something more sinister? Thompson spoke up. "Which terminal?" Hayes hesitated. "I can't disclose that without a formal investigation, but I suggest all access to the prototypes be suspended immediately." "Impossible," Martinez interjected. "We have tests scheduled for Monday. The Pentagon is expecting reports." "Security outweighs schedules," Wilson added, speaking for the first time. Maya observed the officers' interactions, processing each word through her behavioral analysis training. Something was off, but she couldn't pinpoint what. "Sergeant Rodriguez," Blackwood said suddenly, "did you tamper with those codes yesterday?" Maya feigned embarrassment. "No, sir. I only recalibrated the hydraulic pressure parameters. I didn't touch the navigation software." "Are you sure?" Hayes pressed. "Because your digital signature appears in the access logs." "That's impossible," Maya replied, genuinely surprised. "I don't have authorization to access navigation codes." Blackwood and Maya exchanged a quick glance, both realizing someone was trying to frame her. "Perhaps we should review the logs in more detail," Thompson suggested. "Identify exactly when and how these accesses occurred." "Good idea," Hayes agreed. "But that'll take time. I suggest everyone remain available for questioning." At that moment, the base's security alarm blared. An automated voice echoed over the speakers. Yellow security alert. Unauthorized access detected in Sector 7. All units respond. Maya knew Sector 7 well. It housed the base's main communication systems. If someone was attempting to access those systems now, during the meeting, "Let's go," Blackwood ordered, heading for the exit. As the group moved swiftly through the corridors, Maya discreetly activated an app on her phone. It was a digital signal tracker she'd installed on the base's network. If someone was transmitting classified data, she could detect it. Sector 7 was in controlled chaos when they arrived. Cybersecurity technicians rushed between servers, checking logs and protocols. Chief Sergeant Morrison approached Blackwood. "General, we detected an attempted remote access to technical specification files. The access was blocked, but whoever tried knows our protocols." Maya glanced discreetly at her phone. The app showed a data transmission spike exactly 7 minutes ago, during the meeting in the command center. She studied the faces around her. Hayes looked genuinely concerned. Thompson and Martinez showed normal tension for the situation. But Wilson was checking her phone with suspicious frequency, and Maya noticed her subtly trying to delete something from the screen. "General," Maya said, "may I make a suggestion?" Blackwood nodded. "We should check all personal devices present during the meeting. If someone attempted remote access, they might have used a mobile device as a bridge." Hayes, Thompson, and Martinez immediately offered their phones. Wilson hesitated for a crucial moment before doing the same. "No need," Wilson said. "My phone is just personal." "Security protocol, Lieutenant," Blackwood replied firmly. "All devices." As Wilson reluctantly handed over her phone, Maya saw what she needed. On the screen, still visible before being fully deleted, was an encrypted communication app she recognized, the same one used by foreign contacts the CIA monitored. Maya looked at Blackwood and nodded almost imperceptibly. They had found their traitor, but capturing her would be another story entirely. The interrogation of Lieutenant Sarah Wilson took place in Fort Bragg's most secure room, a shielded environment where no electronic signals could enter or exit. Maya observed through a one-way mirror as Blackwood conducted the initial questioning. Wilson, 34, had served as Blackwood's personal secretary for 2 years. Her military record was spotless. Born in Denver, graduated in administration, enlisted at 26 after her husband's death in Afghanistan. Nothing in her past suggested traitorous tendencies. "Lieutenant Wilson," Blackwood began, his voice controlled but firm, "we found evidence of unauthorized communication with foreign agents on your personal device. How do you explain this?" Wilson remained silent, staring at her clasped hands on the table. "Sarah." Blackwood softened his tone, trying a more personal approach. "We've worked together for 2 years. You had my complete trust. Why would you do this?" Finally, Wilson looked up. Her eyes were red, but not with tears, with anger. "Trust?" She laughed bitterly. "Like the trust you had in my husband when you sent him on a suicide mission. In Afghanistan?" Blackwood leaned back in his chair. "Your husband? Lieutenant Michael Wilson. He died in combat in 2022. He died because you ignored intelligence reports about an imminent ambush. You had information that could have saved his life and 4 other soldiers, but you chose to proceed with the mission to meet a political agenda." The connection hit Blackwood like a punch. Maya, watching through the glass, saw the exact moment he remembered. "Operation Desert Shield," he murmured. "You blame me for your husband's death." "Not just you." Wilson leaned forward, her voice dripping with venom. "I blame this entire corrupt military system that treats soldiers like disposable pieces. Mike was a hero, and you killed him for pride and politics." Maya entered the room, deciding it was time to take control. "Lieutenant Wilson, I'm Special Agent Maya Rodriguez, CIA. I understand your pain, but selling military secrets to foreign agents won't bring your husband back." Wilson looked at Maya with curiosity. "The incompetent mechanic is a CIA agent? Interesting." How long have you been passing information? Maya asked directly. 8 months. Since I learned. General Blackwood was being considered for a promotion instead of investigated for my husband's death. Blackwood paled. Sarah, I made the decision based on the information available at the time. Liar! Wilson slammed her fist on the table. I saw the intelligence reports that came in 2 hours before the mission. You ignored them, because cancelling would have damaged your reputation with the Pentagon. Maya observed the exchange, realizing there were deeper layers to this story. Who are your foreign contacts? She asked. Wilson hesitated. Chinese agents. They offered me a new identity, protection, and resources to expose American military corruption. And what did you give them in return? Weapon system specifications, communication protocols, navigation algorithms for drones. Information they said would only be used for defensive purposes. Maya shook her head. You really believe that? American military information is never used just for defense. I don't care, Wilson retorted. If it hurts this corrupt military system, it serves its purpose. Blackwood stood and paced the room. Sarah, you've destroyed your own life and compromised national security for revenge. It wasn't revenge, Wilson corrected. It was justice. Mike deserved justice, and I made sure he got it. Maya pulled a chair and sat directly across from Wilson. Lieutenant, you need to understand something. The information you passed includes specifications for the MQX prototypes. Those autonomous drones could be used for terrorist attacks if they fall into the wrong hands. The Chinese aren't terrorists. No, but they sell information to the highest bidder. Your data could be on the black market right now. For the first time, Wilson showed hesitation. That wasn't the plan. Plans change, Maya said softly. Now I need you to help me minimize the damage. When's the next transfer? Wilson looked between Maya and Blackwood, clearly torn between her anger and the realization. Give her actions consequences. Tonight, she finally answered. Midnight, meeting in the Walmart parking lot on Route 24. I'm supposed to deliver the final access codes for the MQX systems. Maya checked her watch. 6:45 p.m. Less than 5.5 hours. You're going to the meeting, Maya decided. But we'll be there. Why would I help you now? Because, Maya said, looking directly into Wilson's eyes, your husband was a soldier who swore to protect this country. He wouldn't want his death used to harm national security. Wilson closed her eyes, tears finally streaming down. When she opened them again, there was a defeated resignation. What do you want me to do? The operation was entering its final phase, but Maya knew capturing the foreign agents was just the beginning. The real challenge would be preventing the already transferred information from being used against the United States. 30 p.m., Walmart, parking lot on Route 24, 15 kilometers south of Fort Bragg. The location was strategically chosen, isolated enough for privacy but public enough to avoid suspicion. Maya adjusted the hidden microphone in her jacket while observing through night vision binoculars. Alpha position. Report, she whispered into the comms. I have visual on the north entrance, came Blackwood's reply, positioned with an elite CIA team in a disguised van. No suspicious activity. Bravo position all clear on the south perimeter, reported Agent Henderson, who had arrived from Langley 2 hours earlier. Wilson was in her car, a blue Honda Civic parked near the center of the lot. Maya could see her tension even from a distance, hands gripping the steering wheel, constantly checking the rear-view mirrors. 45 p.m. A black Toyota Camry entered the parking lot, heading straight for Wilson's Honda. Maya focused the binoculars on the occupants. 2 Asian men, ages 35-40, wearing casual clothes that didn't fully conceal their military postures. Targets confirmed, Maya murmured. 2 males, matching the intelligence profile. The Camry parked beside the Honda. Wilson stepped out carrying a black backpack, supposedly containing the MQX access codes. In reality, the backpack was filled with fake data prepared by the CIA's technical team. Maya watched through the binoculars. As Wilson approached the Camry, the rear window rolled down, revealing a third man, older, clearly the operations leader. "You're late," the man said in English with a Mandarin accent. "Security issues at the base," Wilson replied, her voice captured clearly by the long-range microphone. "They had to tighten protocols after an internal investigation." "Did you bring the codes?" Wilson hesitated, part of the rehearsed script. "Yes, but the price has changed. I want additional guarantees for my new identity." "We don't discuss prices now. Hand over the codes." Maya saw Wilson pass the backpack through the Camry's window. It was the critical moment. If the Chinese agents discovered the data was fake before being apprehended, the entire operation would fail. The older man opened the backpack and examined a tablet inside. His fingers moved quickly across the screen, verifying the codes. "These codes seem incomplete," he said after a few minutes. Maya's stomach tightened. The CIA technicians had assured her the fake data would pass a superficial check. "They're the base access codes," Wilson improvised. "The final encryption codes are on a separate system. I need more time to access them." "How much time?" "A week." The Chinese leader conferred quickly in Mandarin with his companions. Maya didn't understand the words, but their body language suggested growing distrust. "We'll verify these codes," the leader said finally. "If they're incorrect, you'll have serious problems." "They're correct," Wilson insisted. At that moment, Maya saw something alarming. A fourth man had quietly exited the Camry and was moving around the parking lot's perimeter, clearly conducting security reconnaissance. "We have a problem," she murmured into the comms. "They're checking for surveillance." "Wait. Or act?" Blackwood asked. Maya made a snap decision. "Act! They're starting to suspect. All units, go, go, go!" The parking lot erupted into action. 3 disguised vans converged on the Camry from different directions as CIA agents emerged from hidden positions. Maya sprinted toward Wilson's Honda, her weapon drawn. The Chinese agents reacted swiftly. The Camry's driver floored the accelerator, attempting to break through the encirclement, while the reconnaissance man drew a gun and opened fire. "Wilson, get down!" Maya shouted, running to protect the informant. A bullet ricocheted off the Honda's windshield, shattering the glass. Wilson dove to the ground, screaming in terror. Maya reached cover behind the Honda and returned fire. Her aim found the perimeter shooter, who dropped instantly. The Camry tried to escape via the north exit, but Blackwood's team had positioned an armored vehicle blocking the route. The Chinese driver swerved sharply, lost control, and crashed into a light pole. Within 2 minutes, the action was over. 2 Chinese agents were dead, 1 wounded, and the leader captured alive. Wilson was physically unharmed, but visibly traumatized. Maya approached the wrecked Camry and looked at the Chinese leader, who was being treated by military paramedics. "Colonel Zhang Wei," she said, recognizing him from intelligence photos. "We finally meet in person." Zhang glared at her with hatred-filled eyes. "You don't know what you've just done. This operation is bigger than you think." "That's why you're going to tell us all about it," Maya replied. Blackwood approached, surveying the wreckage. "Good work, Agent Rodriguez. Operation complete?" Maya looked at Wilson, who was being comforted by medical agents, then at Zhang, who was being prepared for transport. "No," she said thoughtfully. "This was just the tip of the iceberg. Zhang's right, there's something bigger at play here." As cleanup crews arrived to process the scene, Maya couldn't shake the feeling that they'd won a battle, but the war was far from over. The secrets Wilson had sold were already in circulation, and now they needed to uncover how many other traitors were on the base, and what exactly the foreign agents planned to do with the stolen information. The night was far from over. 6 weeks later, Fort Bragg had returned to an apparent normalcy. The October morning sun painted the military buildings in golden hues, and the base's routine flowed as if nothing had happened. But in classified briefing rooms and corridors of power, everyone knew everything had changed. Maya was in her temporary office, no longer disguised as a mechanic, but operating officially as a CIA special agent assigned to Fort Bragg. Her desk was covered with reports on the espionage network they'd dismantled. Colonel Zhang Wei's capture had led to the discovery. of a much larger operation. 17 foreign agents operating across 7 U.S. military bases, all coordinated through a cell in Washington, D.C. The investigation had expanded to the FBI, NSA, and military intelligence. Agent Rodriguez? Blackwood's voice interrupted her thoughts. He stood at the door, wearing his dress uniform, a rare sight. General, the ceremony's today? In an hour? Blackwood stepped inside and sat across from her desk. Are you coming? Maya hesitated. The ceremony was to honor the memory of Lieutenant Michael Wilson and other soldiers killed in the mission that had triggered the entire chain of events. Sarah Wilson, now serving a reduced sentence in military prison due to her cooperation, had specifically requested her husband be officially recognized. I'm not sure it's appropriate, Maya said. Sarah still sees me as part of the system she blames for her husband's death. Maybe that's exactly why you should be there. Maya studied Blackwood's face. Over the past weeks, she'd seen a change in him. The authoritative arrogance had been replaced by a humility, born of forced self-examination. Have you decided about retirement? She asked. Blackwood sighed. Officially, I received a reprimand for operational security failures. Unofficially, I'm being encouraged to consider other career options. And what do you want to do? Honestly, I don't know. For 3 decades, I've been General Marcus Blackwood. I don't know who I am without that. Maya stood and walked to the window, watching soldiers training in the yard below. Want to know what I've learned these past 2 months? What? That we're all imperfect people trying to do what we think is right. Sarah Wilson isn't a villain. She's a broken widow seeking justice. You're not a tyrant. You're a soldier who made tough calls with limited information. And I'm not just a CIA agent. I'm someone trying to protect the country I love. Blackwood joined her at the window. And what does that mean? It means maybe it's time we all stop pretending to be perfect and start working together. To be better. They stood in silence for a few minutes, watching military life continue below. Maya, Blackwood said finally, I want to apologize for how I treated you, for the assumptions I made. You're one of the most competent officers I've ever met. Thank you, General. That means a lot. Marcus, he corrected, I think we can drop the formalities now. Maya smiled, a genuine smile that transformed her face. All right, Marcus. And yes, I'll go to the ceremony. An hour later, they were at Fort Bragg's military cemetery. A small crowd had gathered around a new memorial plaque dedicated to Lieutenant Michael Wilson and other fallen soldiers. Sarah Wilson was present, escorted by 2 military guards, but granted special permission to attend. The military chaplain conducted the ceremony with solemn dignity. When it was time for speeches, Blackwood stepped to the microphone. Lieutenant Michael Wilson was an exemplary soldier, he began, his voice heavy with genuine emotion. He died serving his country, and his loss is a scar we all carry. Today, we're not just honoring his memory. We're pledging to do better, to promise that the decisions we make, the orders we give, will always consider the precious value of the lives entrusted to us. Maya watched Sarah Wilson during the speech. Tears streamed down the woman's face, but her expression had changed. The anger had been replaced by something more complex, perhaps the start of healing. After the ceremony, Sarah approached Maya and Blackwood. Agent Rodriguez, she said, her voice controlled. Thank you for everything. I know you could have treated me as an enemy, but you didn't. You weren't my enemy, Sarah. You were grieving. Sarah nodded, then turned to Blackwood. General, I need to say something. I'm listening. Mike wouldn't have wanted what I did. He believed in this country, in these armed forces. He'd understand you made the decision you thought was right at the time. She took a deep breath. I can't fully forgive. Not yet, but I can stop hating. Blackwood extended his hand. That's all I can ask. Sarah shook his hand briefly before being escorted away. As the crowd dispersed, Maya and Blackwood walked together toward the vehicles. Now what? Blackwood asked. Now I head back to Langley. There are other operations, other national security, threats. And me? Maya stopped and faced him. Marcus, you're 52. 3 decades of military experience. You know this system better than almost anyone. Maybe it's time to use that knowledge differently. How? Teaching, consulting, reforming military protocols. There are many ways to serve your country beyond commanding troops. Blackwood considered this. You think I can find a new purpose? Maya subtly pulled up her sleeve, briefly revealing the tattoo she'd hidden for so long. We all reinvent who we are when we need to. That's what makes us human. They parted with a respectful handshake. Maya got into her official vehicle and drove toward the base's exit, glancing at Fort Bragg in the rearview mirror one last time. Her phone rang as she headed to the airport. It was Deputy Director Morrison. Rodriguez, excellent work at Fort Bragg. We've got a new situation requiring your specific skills. Where? San Diego, naval base. Suspected leak of information about nuclear submarine technology. Maya smiled. What cover do you have in mind? Port maintenance engineer. You'd start as a junior technician responsible for equipment. I'm supposedly not qualified to fully understand, Maya finished. Exactly. Interested? Maya glanced at Fort Bragg in the rearview mirror one last time, thinking of everything that had happened in recent weeks. Sarah Wilson learning to channel her pain constructively, Blackwood discovering humility and a new direction for his life, herself finding balance between duty and humanity. I'm interested, she replied. When do I start? Monday. Your documents as Maya Santos, civil engineer from Texas, will be ready tomorrow. As she drove down the highway toward the airport, Maya pulled her sleeve down, covering the CIA tattoo once more. In a few days, she'd be a completely different person, with a new identity, a new mission. But one thing would remain constant: her determination to protect the country she loved, one covert operation at a time. The sun set on the North Carolina horizon, painting the sky orange and purple. It was the end of one mission, but the start of another journey. Maya Rodriguez, the mechanic who had stunned a general, vanished into the night. In her place, Maya Santos, naval engineer, was about to be born, and somewhere in San Diego, people who didn't yet know of her existence were about to learn that underestimating a woman based on appearances was always a dangerous mistake. The road stretched ahead, full of possibilities and new secrets to unravel. Maya accelerated toward the future, carrying the lessons of Fort Bragg and the certainty that no matter her next identity, she'd always be true to who she really was, a silent guardian of American freedom. 6 months later, General Marcus Blackwood, now Professor Marcus Blackwood at West Point Military Institute, was wrapping up his first lecture on ethics and military leadership in the 21st century. The cadets had listened in respectful silence as he shared lessons from 3 decades of service. Remember, he concluded, true leadership isn't about power or authority. It's about responsibility, humility, and the courage to admit when we're wrong. Every life under your command is a sacred treasure, not a chess piece. After the class, Blackwood checked his email and found a message from an unidentified address. Saw the news about San Diego? Operation successful. Thanks for the lessons from Fort Bragg. A former mechanic. He smiled, typing a reply. Congratulations. I hope this time no one underestimated your skills. A former general. Somewhere on the West Coast, Maya read the response and smiled too. Around her, the San Diego Naval Base continued its daily routine, unaware that one of the most sophisticated espionage operations in history had been dismantled by a simple port engineer. She pulled her sleeve down, covering the tattoo that had remained hidden once again, and headed toward her next challenge. Because in a world full of threats, there would always be a need for silent guardians willing to sacrifice recognition for the safety of all. And Maya Rodriguez, or whatever her name was that week, would always be ready to answer the call.